Hi, thank you for coming on the show to talk about some injuries and do the injury report. Even though we've had, only one game so far, we're already seeing a lot of injuries kind of popping up in different practices. So one of the bigger names is Mike Evans, and it's pretty new, recent injury. So can you kind of break down the situation there with Mike Evans?
Yeah, so we actually have even more breaking news a couple of minutes ago. News just broke that Mike Evans is back out on the field catching passes, which is great news. I am still very concerned, though. He had that hamstring injury at the end of last season, which knocked him out for multiple games. And now he had one before the season even starts, and they haven't had any kind of live gameplay, no preseason. I'm just very doubtful that he's going to be at full force in this first game back with history of hamstring strains. We just had Brandon Cooks yesterday, who was playing with a quadriceps strain, but he didn't really play too much. And that's my concern with what's going to happen with Mike Evans, is that they're going to get him out there, but he's going to be super limited, and he's going to put a kind of a lower point score than most expect who are starting him.
He's going to kind of trap you, they'll have him listed as active. So you have to start Mike Evans, and then he comes out and doesn't really do anything like Brandon Cooks last night.
Yeah, just a decoy pretty much. So
now for the long-term season, are you worried about it? Because it seems, as you said, it's happened at the end of last season and now the beginning. I mean, we haven't played any games. Are you worried that it's going to be kind of a continuous lingering injury?
I am, and only because he has history of them as well, too. He even had one a couple years before as well, too. So this would be the third one, and it's something that's going to be in the back of my mind. I would definitely trade him, not now because everyone's just going to be trying to get a fire sale discount on him. But if he strings together a couple of monster games, which I expect he will be, I would try and offload him at that time for an equivalent wide receiver. Or, if you're lacking in running backs and you don't want someone to think, hey, why is this guy trying to get rid of his wide receiver for my wide receiver? Then maybe try and trade him for a high level running back.
Yeah, that's good advice. Yeah, I have him in a league and I've been trying to trade him, but people are pretty cautious with those whenever they see, I mean, we haven't had a game and he's already questionable.
Yeah.
So the next one, another recent injury with some more recent news. Cortland Sutton, I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, the first injury report came out. And what are your thoughts on that? Any major fantasy implications?
So long-term wise, I'm not too concerned. AC joint sprains heal back very well. Short-term wise, I am very concerned that he'll miss this game. And even if he does suit up, I'm concerned that he is on a limited snap count, or even that he aggravates it and gets knocked out for even longer. That happened to a couple of players last year, most notably Dalvin Cook. And then Josh Jacobs ended up needing surgery when he was playing through his AC joint sprain as well, too, which ended up turning into a fracture, or always was a fracture. We're not really clear on that. But there's definitely a risk of playing through an active AC joint sprain. They are very painful as well, too. I've had one. And if you land on it while it's still recovering, I mean, that burns. So I'm sure that they'll take appropriate precautions. I put a post up on him. I think that they'll hold him out this week. If it was earlier in the week, hypothetically, they could have monitored him and maybe even given him a shot and started him this Sunday, which they may still decide to do. But this close, I would be very wary of firing him up.
So, yeah, even if he is active, there's a good chance he re-aggravates it in the game. That's good to bring up. And are you more interested now? Well, obviously more, but are you interested in starting Jerry Jeudy as a flyer? Or do you think it's just going to be more run-oriented with Gordon and Lindsey?
I mean, he's got to throw somewhere, and obviously Fant gets a really big upgrade, but Jeudy, I think, also gets an upgrade because I don't know who else there is to throw with regularity in that offense. So, I mean, it's trial by fire for Jeudy.
So kind of best case scenario for Sutton owners is that they sit Sutton so he doesn't have it turn into a long-term thing, and hopefully they have Jeudy or someone on the bench. That's kind of best case scenario this week. All right, the next injury, that's another very recent one, Kenny Golladay. This one was a little shocking and really scary when that injury report came in.
No, Golladay, I definitely have high hopes for Golladay this season. I'm a Lions fan as well, too. So, I mean, we got to have something to look forward to. Hopefully Golladay doing well. I'm not as concerned about it, and it's not because I'm a Lions fan. I'm unbiased with hamstring injuries. But it seemed, just the general demeanor of the way they talked about it, it did strike, like they did say it was just a precaution. And then also with evidence is his injury history. Golladay isn't a guy who really gets injured too much and doesn't have a huge history of soft tissue injuries. So I could see them just being cautious and just saying, we've had a good enough practice and we're just going to hold them until game day now and just go from there. So if I had to bet on something, I would say that Galladay would be outperforming Evans this weekend, even if they both do start up. And I would guess that Galladay would start up. So
you think he will start? And are you starting him if you have him in a league? And let's say you have him and Cortland Sutton. They're both listed as active, and you can choose between one. Are you more worried about Sutton getting injured in the game?
Yeah, I would be more injured about Sutton.
Okay.
Just because if he had an MRI, that means that the pain was pretty significant. I know it's really cheap for them to get MRIs just because they have their own facilities and everything like that, but it's still something that tells to the degree of pain that Sutton was feeling.
Now, do you think this could be kind of setting us up for another TJ Hawkinson week 1 breakout?
Yeah, possibly. I'm a little bit wary about Hawkinson because he was talking about how his ankle still wasn't feeling up to form. So I'm just like, man, if your ankle's still not feeling right and it's been almost a year now, it's a little bit concerning. So I actually didn't pick up any shares of Hawkinson, but I could definitely be wrong in that, they could just be playing it close to the vest and they want to kind of hide the fact that he's doing real well, but I didn't grab any shares of him.
We could honestly do a whole injury podcast just with the Lions, and they haven't played a game because we got Kerryon Johnson, so it was a question mark, and DeAndre Swift. Who knows what's going on with him?
Yeah, they haven't said anything about his injury. I think they said it was a hamstring, but since they said that one comment, they haven't released any more information on him.
All they did was bring in Adrian Peterson, which doesn't exactly bode well for anything.
I'm
but
hoping that's just a vet signing, but we'll see.
But hopefully you're not in a situation where you have to play DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, or AP. Hopefully you have some better running backs.
Hopefully you don't have to play any Lions guys except for Galladay. Yeah. So the last one, I think, is Deebo Samuel. We all know he got hurt very early on in the offseason. There have been varying reports. Some say maybe a couple of weeks before he returns. I've seen a report saying he may play week 1 and be limited. What are your thoughts on this? And what do you think is kind of the best case scenario long-term for Deebo owners?
So long-term wise, you probably got him for pretty cheap. So it's not like you broke the bank on Deebo. I think the news about the Jones fracture got pretty widespread and people kind of shied away from him. So I have no problem kind of stashing him on your roster if you don't have any other sleepers that you feel like targeting. I wouldn't be starting him this first week though. First week back, even if he comes back this week, as of right now, he hasn't even practiced despite them continuously talking about him possibly playing week 1. If you're going to play a wide receiver that had surgery and hasn't practiced yet week 1, I'm questioning your judgment. But long-term wise, if he's not showing any signs of any issues, say 4 weeks down the road, 5 weeks down the road, and he's played in a couple of games, then my concerns about him would be greatly alleviated. It's not something that, the risk stays the same throughout the entire season. The further he gets away from that injury and the more that he's playing without aggravation, the lower the risk is. It's not like arthritis. So.
All right. And then, so that's good information for him. Yeah. Good. You didn't break the bank on him. He could be kind of one of those back half of the year kind of league winners like he was last year almost. Kind of goes on the radar. And then I wanted to quickly ask just kind of, are you starting, are you sitting a couple different players who aren't exactly injured, but there have been some reports. So AJ Green, for example, he's starting this week, or are you sitting?
So I'm super down on AJ Green. I think he's going to get injured at some point and it's going to be aggravating him throughout the season. But while he's healthy, fire him up. He's a super talented wide receiver. Seems like he's got a pretty talented rookie QB, and I'm sure he's looking to show out. So every game that he is not injured beforehand and not returning from injury, I'm okay with firing up AJ Green.
Kind of, if you drafted AJ Green and you're not going to start him week 1, what was the point? And then Marquise Hollywood-Brown, I know there have been some concerns that you voiced on your page about his injury. Are you starting him this week or sitting him?
Yeah, that's another guy that I guess he might be, if you're in a 14 leaguer, he might be your wide receiver too. If you're in a 12-teamer, I would guess he's your flex. If you're trying to start him as your wide receiver 2 in your 12-teamer or your wide receiver 1 in a 14-teamer, I wouldn't do that. But I'm okay with him backing up. But again, with the similar reasoning to AJ Green, that I think that there's a risk that he does get knocked out with the injury this season, but while he's healthy, he's a great talent. And if you have him on your roster, play him. I just didn't target him for the concerns that I think he's going to get injured at some point.
Kind of a little bit like how I was with David Johnson. Well, he's healthy, he's going to be good, but just be cautious. It's kind of a ticking time bomb.
Yeah, and I'm extremely happy with David Johnson. I managed to pick him up as my flex running back in a 12-teamer, so I'm great playing him there. And if he goes down, he goes down, and I'll find someone else to put there. But for right now, as my third running back, he's doing wonders.
Yeah, a great pick. Yeah, the problem I always had with David Johnson wasn't the player, but just where he was going in some drafts. Because I'd seen him. There are some fantasy football Instagram pages that were saying he's a top 10 draft pick, and that's what I couldn't support.
I think I got him in the 5th round or something, so I was all right with that.
Yeah, that's a great pick. All right, well, that's really the last of the major injuries that we can cover. Thank you so much for your time and sitting down and covering these. Any closing remarks you'd like to make, or shout out your page?
My page is FantasyDocs. I think we have a lot of similar followers, but if you aren't following me, then give me a follow. I'll probably put this up on my page too. So if you aren't following the Prophet, then definitely give him a follow. He gives super in-depth analysis. He responds super fast and he grinds hard. So.
All right. Thank you. And I will see you in the future when more people get injured. Have a great day.